Good morning. Today is Wednesday, and we're celebrating the solemnity of the Nativity of St. John the Baptist. I love thinking about John the Baptist, about what a courageous person he must have been, about how he must have had an enormous love and trust and faith in God to go and do what he did all by himself. There wasn't anybody else except perhaps some of the scriptures, perhaps one of the scriptures that we're going to read this morning that would guide him, that would give him the idea that he could be the herald that he was. So this morning, instead of the gospel, I like to read from Isaiah, the first reading this morning, and go through what the prophet Isaiah wrote about Israel. He mentions Israel directly, but indirectly, I can just see these words creating the image that I have in my mind of John the Baptist. And then taking these words and putting them in front of you and me this morning. Because each one of us was made in the image and likeness of God. Each one of us was called and named in our mother's womb. We are all very special people, and we're all here to bring light to the world and salvation to all nations. Big task for so early in the morning, but let's read the reading and then go through a few thoughts for the day. A reading from the prophet Isaiah. Hear me, O coastlands. Listen, O distant peoples. The Lord called me from birth. From my mother's womb he gave me my name. He made of me a sharp-edged sword and concealed me in the shadow of his arm. He made me a polished arrow. In his quiver he hid me. You are my servant, he said to me, Israel, through whom I show my glory. Though I thought I had toiled in vain and for nothing, uselessly spent my strength, yet my reward is with the Lord, my recompense is with my God. For now the Lord has spoken, who formed me as his servant from the womb, that Jacob may be brought back to him, and Israel gathered to him. And I am made glorious in the sight of the Lord, and my God is now my strength. It is too little, he says, for you to be my servant, to raise up the tribes of Jacob, and to restore the survivors of Israel. I will make you a light to the nations, that my salvation may reach to the ends of the earth. Today we celebrate the solemnity of the Nativity of John the Baptist. Jesus referred to John the Baptist as the greatest man born of woman, but then added that the least in the kingdom is greater than he. So the herald, John the Baptist, who announced the coming of the kingdom, is the greatest man that ever lived, but he's not as great as the least in the kingdom. That leaves us to ponder how great is the kingdom. When I read the words of Isaiah, I can hear and imagine Isaiah telling us that John the Baptist was coming, that John the Baptist was very special, and that he had a mission, a very important mission that is no less than the salvation of the world. When I read the passage a second time and third, these words not only call out the coming of John the Baptist, they call out our own birth, our own mission, our own greatness in the eyes of God. So let me take a few pieces from the reading today and open them up just a little bit. The Lord called me from birth. We remember Elizabeth was older when the angel came to announce that she would conceive. From my mother's womb he gave me my name. Remember, Zechariah had to write down John's name because he had been made speechless when he heard that Elizabeth would have a child. He had doubts in the word, the message that the angel had brought from God. He made me a sharp-edged sword. We know the words of Isaiah, I am the voice of one crying out in the desert, make straight the way of the Lord. And that was John's voice. That's what John did. I'm sure not everyone was happy with his voice saying that things are going to change. Be patient and wait, but things are going to change. They're not going to stay the same. I'm sure that the people in power at that point in time were not very happy with John. He made me a polished arrow. God made this man special. He hid him in a quiver of arrows, but polished with a special purpose, polished to stand out and to be noticed. You are my servant. Isaiah, writing about the nation Israel, but what I'm calling out is he was writing about John the Baptist here, not a king or a prince or a rich man. John was not going to be any of those, or a celebrity, or famous, or loved by all. You are my servant. Though I thought I had toiled in vain. It's hard to see the finish line sometimes. Certainly the sum total of what John did is clearer today than it was in his time. Life is full of frustrations, and our vision of the future is often obstructed by our humanity. Yet my reward is with the Lord, my recompense is with my God. So, as servants, certainly John needed, and we need, to take the long view, not the instant gratification expectation that is so common today. Imagine the deep faith that filled John as he toiled in the desert day after day, until that one day when the Son of Man stood in front of him. His reward was beyond the desert and beyond the Jordan River. And God is now my strength. Excuse me. John the Baptist's work, heroic to us today, must have been anything but heroic work to him, as he lived in the desert and preached tirelessly to people who came to hear but had no answers. John served the searchers, the people who were searching for something they couldn't even imagine. How could John do that without finding the enormous strength of God in his heart every day? Again, I quote from Isaiah, "It is too little," he says, "for you to be my servant. I will make you a light to the nations, that my salvation might reach to the ends of the earth." So as this reading closed today, Isaiah shares with us the immensity of John's call, his mission, the challenge from God. I want you to be my servant. But that's not enough. So we celebrate the nativity of John the Baptist today. Isaiah tells us, the Lord called me from birth. The Lord called John the Baptist from birth to be his servant, and to be more than his servant, to be his light, his example, his goodness, his voice to the nations. These words and John's example are a call to you and me, to all of us, to serve the Lord and more, to be his shining light to everyone we meet every day. So, hopefully Isaiah will lighten your day and give you a deeper faith to make it through today and then tomorrow. And as John the Baptist saw himself with his own eyes, to be that light until we see the Son of God face to face. God bless, and we'll see you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.